Hey everyone, welcome to episode 21 of the Everday Bow Hunter. And today's episode, we're going to dive deep into summer scouting. We're going to talk a little bit about what we've done since our last podcast, dive deep into some personal stuff from our personal preparations. Then we're going to talk with special guest here. To my left is my son, Trevor Manley, and he is going to talk a little bit about some habitat stuff that's going to be important to you to learn so you can find food sources, understand what deer are looking for themselves, in the summer months and into the fall, so you can really hone in your scouting. And that's really it. Yeah. That's what we're going to talk about. All right, Dan. So what's going on with you?
Nothing much. It's, again, dog show. Just got back from a week in Virginia in 106 degrees. It was great, but we had a heck of a good time. So
that's great.
The dog did great. So the
last you didn't say about it.
The last day, she won her breed. Most days, the very last day, she actually got a group placing, which was great, group 3. So that was a great way to end the week and get some good points. What she's doing right now is trying to collect points. She has to be within the top 10 in the nation by the end of September, or middle of September, I think the 18th of September. And if she's in the top 10 in the nation, she gets to go to Orlando in December, and I get to fly down. I'm not driving, she is, but me and a buddy, we're going to fly down and fly home, but I want to be there for at least a day or two of the show, but I think that's a 5-day show. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
that's
the dog's
awesome.
doing good. My wife's doing great. That's awesome.
All right. So you were talking about things that you needed to do to start prepping for the season.
I feel like I'm a little behind the 8 ball, and, I need to get moving. And I told the wife, you need to start going to some of these shows alone. She's going to start hauling the camper by herself and all that. And she used to haul horses, so I'm very confident. But this weekend, Sunday, I'm going to get up and move my trail cam. I'm not seeing anything on it. My scouting 1 + 1 did not equal 2. So I need to move it, rescout, reset, and put some time in the woods. And I said to her, I got to get shooting. I really got to. It's that time of the year. We're in July, getting ready to head into July here. Right now is prime time to do your summer scouting, get shooting, get that muscle memory going. So I'm going to start my process pretty hardcore from here on out.
Yeah, shooting is essential. Yeah. If you haven't done it yet, if you've been on the fence, my recommendation to anybody listening is start shooting. Get out there, get that muscle memory. It takes some time to build that muscle up.
Right.
So sometimes it's, if you have the means, shoot 10 arrows a day. You don't have to shoot 100. I like to shoot about 30 arrows when I go shoot at least.
Yeah.
And it's okay if your arm's sore, because that's what you're trying to build that.
Right.
Build that up, because when you're in the tree, we all know, tree, ground, I don't care. When a deer's coming up and you're trying to be quiet on that draw, you need that muscle memory to do that with it, and you're going to get the nerves and everything else.
Part 2 of that too is, come archery season, you want to be in shape, and you don't want to be pulling a muscle while trying to pull your bow back and just lose an opportunity that's unnecessary. So for me, my goal this year is to really, really, I think I've been more focused in that 20, 25 yard range. I'm going to really address the 30 and 40 to make my 2025 even better. To build, what's the aim small, miss small?
Yeah.
I'm really going. That's my focus.
If you're hitting good at 40 and your sights are great at 25, that's going to help you out a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fine tuning.
So I'm excited. I bought my hunting license yesterday.
Yeah.
Our doe tags don't go on sale till the 27th. Today's the 25th?
Yeah, today's 25th.
Okay, so Thursday they go on sale, and I'll be getting our first round doe tag. And this is the greatest time of the year. Them fresh tags, there's nothing like it.
Now, Pennsylvania changed the way things are done with doe tags this year.
It's great.
They went to where starting on the 27th through, I think it's like the 6th of July or
the
something.
7th of July.
7th of July, that everybody is guaranteed at least one doe
all
tag.
residents.
All residents, is guaranteed a doe tag. Then they'll open it up to non-residents after that.
Right.
And then they'll start the round 2 on doe tags on the 22nd of July.
Right.
So that's a big thing with that. Now, as far as shooting for me, Trevor here went and got me for Father's Day a membership to Extreme Archery for 90 days, 3 months.
Awesome gift, dude.
I made sure of it. I was like, oh, what can I get him? And even the dude, when I was getting him the membership, he was like, this is a hell of a Father's Day gift. I was like, yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's it. That's a son who knows how not to screw up.
I was making sure. I was like, oh, Dad's really working on archery. I was like, what would help him more than getting a range visit and being able to go until September? That goes right into hunting season.
Absolutely.
Everything goes right into that fall.
He's saying
Smart gift.
Well, he says all the time. He says, "Dad, I can't, figure out what to buy you for these things because if you want something, you go and buy it."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Both
No, that right there, that's a great gift. And in these dog days of summer, being able to shoot indoors I'm envious. Yeah. And I'll probably be spending a couple of dollars here and there to go shoot with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice getting up there and shooting. In fact, I'm gonna go at least twice this week if I can, since I don't want to waste it.
Better not.
Okay, Dan, we had to cut that out. Dan sneezed or attempted to sneeze. He failed to sneeze, so that's
sorry, everybody.
That's a great piece of the podcast right there.
It's a good blooper right there.
Yeah. So since the last podcast, I actually did a lot of prep work and really been working on a lot of different things. I've been testing a tremendous amount of gear and reviewing a lot of gear. I released 2 videos recently. One was the 6 steps that made me a better bow hunter. And I think that's real valuable for beginners if you go through that. It's really detailed, and I'm going to even be making more videos to go deeper into that stuff. And then I did one on the best camouflage for deer hunting, which has been pretty popular. So if you have a chance, go to YouTube and check those out. Now, on the actual preparation front, as far as getting scouting and stuff, we went up to the mountains, put a lot of miles on, and I think that the e-bike thing really worked out because I was in territory.
We were in areas we'd never been before.
Yeah, never been to before, and was able to use the e-bike to really go out and scout some places that
I said it's a hell of a tool.
Yeah,
I mean, this opened up a lot of windows, and that's great.
Yeah, and
I should say doors. Sorry, not windows.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that you still need to be out there hiking. If you're good, if you hunt hill country or the mountains like we do, one of the biggest things is getting yourself out there and getting in shape to go up those mountains, because you're going to have possibly have a tree stand on your back, a pack of some kind, whatever, you're going to need.
And you're going to be dragging deer. So you got to be in shape.
Yeah. You got to have that weight resistance.
Waiting to do that until the end of summer is not a good idea. So
yeah, you can't let the e-bike get you lazy.
No, I one of the things that we do is we go to the gym every day. Yeah. So we're always in the gym. And
you can get there. Danny.
What's really helped me out in the mountains, I noticed, because I was blazing when we were out there, was I do stair stepper at the gym every day. I do stair stepper, and it really builds up helps my quads.
You would.
Shut up. But anyway, it's helped out a lot, and that physical fitness aspect to your summer prep is huge. But went and adjusted cameras. Now, one of the places where I had a cell camera, and it stopped reporting for me.
Okay.
And so we went out and went to the spot, and we had on our e-bikes, and the whole family has e-bikes now. So
mine was a graduation gift. It was a big surprise. I didn't even realize. I was like, oh, I pulled it into
awesome.
Our house.
Yeah. So we're on the e-bikes, and we get to the spot where I have to go up the mountain to go where the camera is, and Tanya is on her e-bike, and she goes, Mike, just pay attention to me. I'm like, what? Because I was looking up the mountain trying to figure out, where's the trail that I want to go up and stuff. And she's like on the downside of the dirt road we're on. It's just a rocky dirt road we're on, not really vehicle friendly. But anyway, she goes, hey, I either saw a doe or a fox, but it was hunkering way down in the. It was real thick.
And as red as deer are right now, I could in the summer. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and so she goes, but I saw something and it ran off and you missed it. I was trying to get your attention. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I'm sorry I missed that deer. Well, there's a reason why I'm telling that part of the story. I go up to my camera, I get to it, and I find that ultimately find out that the camera's still working, but the antenna was ripped off by a young bear. So camera got all the pictures of the bear, and him coming up to the camera and stuff and ripping the antenna out. But the camera continued to take pictures, just like a regular trail camera, right? So, which is great. And I was using the Exodus Rival camera up there. And well, anyway, so go and look, get the camera off the tree, put it in my pack, and I turn around and I'm taking a different trail down. I'm looking at some sign I'm seeing, right? I see some hoof prints in the ground and stuff. So I kind of look at a trail there, and I take like maybe 10 steps, and there's thick ferns there. And don't I almost step on a newborn fawn?
Oh,
so
awesome.
It gets up and it runs about 10 yards and just back down. And I'm like, this thing was just born. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. So I'm like automatically, oh, Tanya did see a deer.
Yeah.
So my first instinct was get out of there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Let that mom reunite with that fawn,
Don't
get
disrupt.
out of there. Don't disrupt that. So, but it scared the crap out of me. It jumped up and I was like, ah.
I almost stepped on a fawn before, so I get it. And it's like you're just kind of dillied out. And
I was totally like engrossed in the sign around me, looking for different, because there was some, fresh deer shit there and stuff. And I was like, oh, right here, And ultimately, what I ended up seeing was that on the camera is that doe, big and pregnant.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And up until the fact that she wasn't. And that happened to me with my other camera.
Yeah.
You saw the actual progression, pregnant to two little ones. That was pretty cool to see.
Yeah. So I showed Dan and Trevor. I had this camera that had this doe, and she was double wide. Mm-hmm. She was double wide, and had her just after midnight on another camera, not this same camera, but on another camera. And boom, come 10:30 in the morning, the next pictures are her with two fawns.
It's amazing how fast they're up on all and walking. That is so cool. That is so cool.
But fast forward a little later, and I don't know if it's connected. I have a bear on the camera, right? 2 days later, just 2 days later, I have a bear on the camera. And now on my camera, all I'm seeing is the doe with one fawn. I'm not seeing a second one. So it could be anything. It might have nothing to do with that bear.
Yeah.
But, things happen in nature. And so there's only one fawn roaming around, at least that's been caught on camera.
Yeah.
With that doe. So I'm hoping maybe something else.
All right. So it was cute.
Very cute.
Past tense.
That's true.
You see where I went with that?
We always wanted to grow up because they could end up being a big buck or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but
well, that's the problem with having bear in our area.
Yeah, we bears. That's why I wrote to you in the text. Bear 4, Mike 0. I've had 4 cameras taken out.
They
by
always
bear.
go after his cameras. We see so many pictures when he comes home. He's like, another bear got my goddamn camera every time. And it's just, you see the bear come up right to the camera, and it's just like the mouth going on and stuff right
now,
there.
Now, my other camera that's
you gotta start buying these American-made cameras.
I guess, because they hate the Chinese. But yeah, my other camera stopped reporting. Last status report was a couple days ago, and I don't know if it's a battery issue or what, but I'm gonna have to go look. It always worries me because it could be bear number
number 5.
I get a report every day from my camera, and it's the same picture it's been for 2 months every day. Nothing extra. It's so
for
disappointing.
that particular area. It surprises me, honestly.
The crazy thing is going in to hang that camera, the signage, it was unbelievable.
Maybe you shot,
I could think
shot the only deer that was leaving that sign.
No, here's a true story. So the camera was sitting on my kitchen table, and it was getting packed, getting ready to go. Well, I made wings, and I looked down, there was hot sauce all over my camera. I just wiped it off and then didn't think about descenting it. I don't know I highly doubt by now
it's
that
been
has
rained on like crazy.
I know, but it's just stupid stuff that you think about in the process of you like backtrack. Why am I not seeing animals when I saw all the sign? And I'm saying I saw fresh sign. So I saw shiny FFDS, fairly fresh deer shit, not but 10 yards from that camera. What's good? So anyway,
you might have just pushed it off its normal route there and it changed. And then, of course, summer patterns and all that change.
Right.
And so we don't know.
It's just been very disappointing because I was like really excited. My first
The sign in that whole area is fantastic.
Now, 100 yards down the mountain where I shot and hit that buck this year, unbelievably torn up. Super excited about that.
That area is
I get to
great.
check it out again.
And that kind of goes in. We'll talk here in a few minutes about the habitat stuff, but that goes into the habitat stuff. There's something there that's keeping them there in that spot.
Well, what I figured out the day that I hung the camera, actually a little bit the day that we were tracking that buck that I hit. So putting 2 and 2 together, what I realized is if I'm facing up the mountain and I shot that buck head on, where he was coming from, eating the acorns I could hear in the dark, there's water down there. Okay, so he was down getting a drink. To my left is bedding because I had walked over there and saw a bunch of beds. Okay, so either the doe are bedding there and he's going and getting up to have that bird's eye view of them, or however it's happening. I know I saw bedding and I know that there's water and I heard him eating acorns the whole way through. So I understand
multiple, it's probably doe.
But again, it's just a small little bench up of where he could be on
he
that.
could be downwind of them, scent checking them and stuff.
Plus, it's right on the point, and they can look down and see the road. They have...
Oh, there's where we saw... That's where we saw all the beds in the winter. How about Trevor?
Yeah. Oh, my God. The brighter
they were... And then with hair in them and everything. And in the snow, they had the three beds right against each other.
But the only reason I hung this camera up where I hung it is because where I wanted to hang it, where I shot at that buck, I could not connect. Yeah. So I had to deviate from my plan and scout on.
You don't want to waste the cell camera.
I went up to the last bench. Yeah. And on that last bench, I'm thinking, maybe in the early season, summer, blah, 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 they could be up there out of the way. I guess I'm wrong. So, and that's okay.
Let me tell you something that I discovered here when I was out turkey hunting at the end of May. So I was out turkey hunting, like I said, and I decided to go up and check the camera I had up there that's not reporting now. And this area, it comes off, there's a logging road, and then it's a little stretch of flat on a bench. It goes up maybe 300 yards of elevation, or not 300 yards elevation, 300 yards to the next bench. And then it flattens out again for a good ways, and then it goes up to the last bench on the mountain. So there's a lot of mountain here. But anyway, this is not a super high bench we're talking about. I go up to the second bench that I just talked about, and as I'm going up to it, I have a deer get up out of bed and bolt up the mountain. I go up, of course, there's hair in the bed and everything, and I look at how this deer was bedding, and I was like, maybe it was a doe, by itself because of the area. But as soon as I got up to the next bench and was looking down the mountain, you could see where this deer, and I think now it's a buck because of what else I found here in a second, but the bed, he had, if it was a buck, which I assume, had great lanes of visual lanes out in front of him for security. The way the incline went up behind him gave him a great backstop, right? And then, of course, the thermals would be dropping in the morning and give him, dropping in the evening, which was the time of day I was going, it's giving him that protection as well. And then whichever way, I don't remember the way the wind direction was that day. But anyway, I go up to my camera now. I get to my camera. Did I sneeze again?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I get to my camera, mess with it, redo it, make sure it's working, blah, blah, blah. And I go to walk away from it to go up and look at some other areas to scout a little bit and turkey hunt. And 10 yards from that camera is a bed. And hair in it, everything fresh. And I'm saying to myself, so there's 2 buck that have been on that camera, right? I call them small and medium. Large has been absent. I don't know if he died or somebody shot him or whatever, but I haven't seen him yet this year. So he might be gone.
As per growth, it might be a new medium and large.
Yeah.
So small and medium might have turned into medium and large.
Yeah. Anyway, there's those 2 buck there. And so I went, and the camera had been showing me the 2 buck together and stuff. So based on tons of pictures I was getting of just a little bit of brown off to the side, which I showed you, that one of those bucks was bedding there, and one of those bucks was bedding down the hill, based on my camera footage, my assumption based on my camera footage. And both of these beds had great views. Now, the bed on the bench next to my camera, he had a backstop from hell. He was sitting right up against the brush pile. So it's the kind of bedding you would expect. So the moral of this story, the reason why I told that, is don't assume when you're looking for bedding for bucks that this time of year that it's all going to be, this huge backstop or whatever. They like good visual lanes to see. Sometimes when the hunting pressure gets higher, then they're looking for the real dense, thick stuff. But this time of year, you can find beds that are in the open, and you got to get down on the ground and get in there. And I could see the deer hair in them from standing. Didn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out, because it had that good marking on the ground. And it had just rained. Right, so we had a dry spot where the deer was at.
Yeah.
So that was great. But anyway, so I got a lot of time in the woods, and I confirmed a couple spots. I went and found probably 3 more spots that I had never found before. But while we're doing this and trying to hone in on what to look for summer scouting, I had Trevor here out with me and my wife, Tanya, and we're out, and don't we come across just because things are just grown up right now, right? And we're coming across all this different habitat stuff. And it's really, every time we run into something, he's opening his mouth and going, oh, well, that's this and this. That's why the deer are here. This is that, and that's there.
So let's hear this.
So, yes. So, but before we get started, once again, this is my son, Trevor Manley, 23 years old. He just graduated from Penn State in wildlife and fisheries. So he has done a bunch of schooling. He has quite a bit of education on what we're about to talk about. And before we get into the habitat stuff and talk about the kind of food we're looking for, the kind of bedding stuff that we're looking for, and the stuff we're looking for into the fall here to expect, at different things to look for that help you, really narrow down your scouting and pick spots where they're going to be for the food. I had talked about on the one podcast, Dwayne Diffenbach.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And talked about him with the deer study up at Penn State.
Which is really good. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Dwayne Diffenbach is one of his professors.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Well, he wasn't one of my professors. He had actually retired from teaching, but he ran the deer farm, and we had many labs where we would go and he would talk to us about their feeding habits and how, he would organize stuff. We had to wear bags on our legs because of CWD. On the deer farm, we didn't want to be tracking that in based off of our clothes so as to contain it. But, which always sucked because the labs were always in the summer, so it was just super sweaty.
And then here you got bags on your feet, too.
Yeah, just adding on to that humidity. But he would just be explaining stuff like, I could get the deer so used to me that I could just sit out there. And if we need to vaccinate a deer or something, he's like, I'd just be sitting there with the trank gun, and he's like, eventually I just walk through the herd and just boom, 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 get 4 of them, and he's like, they wouldn't even move.
So that brings a question. With the deer, when we talk about things like Evercalm, as far as a cover scent.
Yeah, the herd scent.
Yes, if you haven't heard of it, Evercalm is a cover scent that smells like deer herd or like deer bedding. Deer bedding.
There's some urine smells and so of course,
other stuff in it. Yeah. So did you talk about that stuff at all?
He never really got into the scent stuff, but he was he's like, they just got used to my scent and my presence.
It wasn't a threat, maybe.
Yep.
I mean, we've talked about that with deer bedding close to our cabin, close to humanity. Yeah. They get a sense of comfort and knowing where we're at type thing.
Yeah. Okay. So, what things did you really learn about deer in that? One of the things you said was that they cut off the antlers of all the deer or all but one?
All but 2.
All but 2.
So they cut the antlers off of the other bucks, and this is because when two bucks are fighting, they got their antlers locked together. It was to keep a third buck from coming from the side and goring
them while
they're fighting.
Okay, yeah, they're protecting.
So it just come up, and he's like, it's just kind of like a mean headbutt to the side at that point. He's like, we actually got to saw off some antlers while we were there. We tranquilized one. Everybody had to pull straws, and of course, the first straw I pulled was like the tiniest one. He's like, "Oh, biggest straw wins." I was like, "Oh, well, there's my chance." But I did vaccinate it, so I did get to vaccinate. I did get to shoot the trank gun. I just didn't get to shoot a deer with it.
So you missed?
We had targets. They had the styrofoam deer thing, and we were just like, "Oh, cool."
Okay.
And just shot it. He's like, "You want to get it like." Kind of in the backside a bit more, and so like everybody's shooting it. Then we sawed off the antlers. We got to learn how they age deer and elk through their teeth, which was really cool.
That's interesting. Yes.
So you could determine their teeth, like based off the lines of their teeth, kind of like how a tree has the rings. It's basically like that. And me and my friend Keegan actually got graded, and we turned it into an elk specialist. He runs the elk area, the state game land elk range, and does the lottery numbers and everything for it. And he looked at her answers and he goes, "This is the first 100%." And I was like, "Yeah, baby, woo!" Super dumb, but I was just like, "Yes, I know what I'm doing here."
Now, did Diffenbach do it, or somebody else did that? Where they're doing this deer study, they have that gun thing, that catches the deer with.
That was a different person. He worked with the State Game Commission, and he was teaching us about this net gun.
Yeah.
And it's how they catch a herd of deer, and it's basically like multiple launchers set up, and it's like a giant explosion just shoots this net out over the herd, where they sell them out in like
How
farms.
crazy is that?
I got to shoot it. I got to press the button, so it was really fun. I was trying to find an old
video he showed.
Yeah, I been trying to find it on my phone, but there's a video of me like counting it down. I was pulling like the Heath Ledger, like pretending to hit the button multiple times with the hospital. So I was like, boom! It launches them. It's so loud, but so quick.
Yeah, so that's what they do for that deer study.
Yeah.
You know, they have all those collared deer.
Yeah.
You know, for the deer, Penn State's running a huge deer study.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So now, Trevor, you and I were with your mom, and we were coming up on. We came up on a spot kind of high in the mountain, and the first thing you said was, "Oh, this is a good spot to hunt." And said, "Oh, this is a red oak here, and over here's a white oak." But then you said, "Oh, and this one's a chestnut oak."
Yep.
And so when it comes to mass production, that's for the fall, and we'll talk about that more here in a second. But when it comes to summer, your summer browse and stuff, greenbrier comes to mind. Saw a lot of that chewed on as far as things to look for. It's areas that are getting browsed. But what other plants are deer really fond of, or really like to browse on, and what's their primaries and what's kind of secondary?
So some of the secondary ones, so I'm going to start off with that first real quick, is like Solomon seal and like the fall Solomon seals in the Canada. He did it. He finally sneezed. Yeah. Bless you.
That's been building for a while. I'm sorry. I got to go get it.
Dan finally sneezed.
It felt amazing.
And we had to cut that part out. So we're back to the podcast and talking with Trevor about the secondary plants.
Yes.
And things that deer are looking to browse on, and this time of year, summertime, that you can really look forward to honing your scouting.
Yep. So, like I was saying, the Solomon seals and the fall Solomon seals, that family right there, they tend to like go for those. If that's in the area and nothing else, they'll go for those. They'll tend to eat like border privet and stuff, which is really rare for them to do so, but it's like those options have been taken out. The primary options have been taken out for them to eat. You talked about greenbriers. The roses and the raspberries, they'll eat the briars. They'll only eat the fresh briars, though. They won't go for the older ones. They'll tend to go for those younger green variations.
Yeah. Just like you see them when they're browsing, they're always biting the tops
more
off.
vitamin, more minerals.
They don't. They have like a flat plate on top, and their bottom jaw does a lot of the chomping. So it's just kind of like a scissor cutting up at the plants there.
It's like cutting up cilantro.
Yep. But some of the primary stuff that is interesting is like the bellworts. Some of those small little plants, they're really tiny and have little flowers hanging down that they'll just go and they'll mound on them like crazy.
Okay.
Trilliums are also really big for them to eat. They're like tiny little 3 flowers. They're white, purple, red, and they'll eat those. They'll nibble on the leaves and everything. They'll take those flowers straight off.
What about honeysuckle?
Honeysuckle is pretty big too, and the ones that they avoid is it's just a non-native variation of honeysuckle that's more of like the shrub variation. The honeysuckles that they do eat at are more of the vines and everything that hang off the trees and stuff. They'll eat a lot more of those. Something that was interesting that I got to see when I was out doing my dendrology classes and everything, looking at the wooden plants, was we got to see some of the poison ivy being browsed by deer. So they were eating that, and I was like, the one professor said, yeah, they're immune to poison ivy. They don't get it, so they'll just eat it if it's in the area. They'll nibble on some of the flowers.
I wish they'd eat a lot of it. I would eat the deer and then become immune too.
Yeah.
I wish right now this was a green screen and we could have pictures of what he's talking about, the different plants.
Well, one of the things we talked about, and this is what we want to do, and even Dan and I talked about it on Father's Day, is that we want to put a video together where we show all this stuff.
Right.
Because a lot of the stuff that Trevor's talking about right now just went over your head, and you might not.
And maybe mine too.
And I know about like a third of what he just said, as far as what they look like. What they look like. So we are going to put a video together and put all that stuff out there so you can see it. And we might not be able to hit every single plant, but we'll be able to hit a lot. Now we hit, what was that, deer tongue that you were saying?
Deer tongue, yeah. They go for those types of plants. It's just like a little shrub. It's an herb, and they'll go for that. It's really weird looking. It just looks like simple grass in here and there, but they'll browse on that too like crazy.
It actually looks like a tongue.
So what's the primary?
Primary is what I was saying, like the bellworts, where they'll eat that. The trilliums are really big. It's not around right now because it's only grows in spring. Is lilies, like trout lilies and stuff. They don't eat the leaves, but they'll eat the flowers and the seed capsules that come from it, like crazy.
Yeah.
And so those, like trout lilies, pretty easy to spot on the ground. Okay. But because of how the leaves are, deer can't see them. So they can see the seeds, but they can't see the leaves. It's spotted. It's like a mottled coloration, so it's like green and brown. So it just blends in with the dirt on the ground. So they'll just pass over it, but they'll eat at the seeds and stuff.
Okay.
So then we talk about heading into the fall, things that look for as far as trees when you're out there doing your summer scouting. You're looking for those trees that are...
Trees are going to produce in the fall.
Yes, mass-producing trees, your acorns, obviously. Chestnuts as well, because that's a secondary source. It's not a primary source. So we looked at multiple different trees, and you had some identification things for white oaks and red oaks and chestnut oaks and stuff. And I think that's what that video really helped out with, and showing people those characteristics. The red oaks stand out like a sore thumb. You can't miss a red oak, really.
Yeah, red oaks are like we got quizzed on them so much to the point that I can be walking past and be like, oh, there's a red oak right there. It's just, they have such a defining characteristic where they just have these lines going straight up the tree. Yeah. They look like ski trails just going right up, and it's super identifiable.
This is my weakness, is identifying the trees. This is where you're going to come in real handy.
I'm telling you.
Yeah,
so the listeners, we were out on our e-bikes and we made multiple stops because of seeing deer sign. Mm-hmm. And we went into the woods looking at the deer sign, and Trevor would be like, oh, yeah, they like this here. They like that there. Oh, that's a chestnut oak right there. It produces this type of mass. Here's a white oak, which we know white oak acorns are the primary, one of the acorns that they like the most.
Yeah. Beech nut.
They like the red oaks, but that's because of the tannin in there or whatever. Isn't that right?
Tannins make it's got like a bitter flavor to them, so that's what they'll. I was taught about them is like they're not as preferred as white oaks, and how we were taught was we got taught the white oaks, and then we got taught the red oaks because they're two different like sides of the oaks. The white oaks are like the chestnut oaks, the swamp oaks, the bur oaks, and our normal white oaks. While the red oak sides like our black oaks, scarlet oaks, and red oaks, those all have different characteristics and all have different showings of like what's in the landscape. They have different areas where they grow. Like chestnut oak, you'll see that more in like a mountaintop.
Okay.
While
Which we had there, because we were when we were doing this, we're in the mountains in central PA.
yeah, we're up in the top of the mountains, and I was showing him like the different characteristics that you'll see for like chestnut oak. It's just very blocky. It looks like a bunch of bricks laid up on top of each other kind of ordeal. And then a normal white oak, I was like, yeah, look, it looks like just layers of cake just kind of slapped onto the tree. It's just kind of laid up on there. And then when I was talking to him, I was like, yeah, they have the white oak tannins in those. And that's what's going to be going for deer. They're going to be going after those. Oh, sorry. I almost hit the mic. The white oak tannins.
I do have a question.
Yep.
Will they eat like birch bark for like flavor, sweet? Like, just curious. Something I always
I
wondered.
would think about the birch trees that they would take the ends.
They'll nibble on the leaves, and they'll nibble on like the low branches and stuff.
Okay.
Because we didn't talk about woody browse because they like.
Yeah.
There's different woody browse they like as well.
Right. And, yeah. Like, do they eat bark?
They wouldn't eat the bark. You would see more of like a porcupine doing something like
Okay.
that level.
Yeah.
Because they'll go for the nubs, like the buds that are on the trees. They'll eat those off.
I've actually seen porcupine do it, so it checks out.
Yeah.
Well, just off the subject, Trevor was telling us about porcupines and how they basically sleep at the top of trees that they basically destroy because they will destroy a tree.
And if they've been there, the pile of poop that's at the bottom is I've seen it. There was two living in trees side by side, and I shot them. And when I got to them, the piles of poop that were at the bottom was it was like they had been there forever. Like,
Oh, they'll stay on those trees.
you know that, or they poop a lot.
They'll stay on those trees for weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
Just mowing down in the area. And one of the studies I did was on fishers, and those are when they brought those back in because the porcupines were eating so many trees. Fishers eat porcupines.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know
I
that.
didn't know it either. Yeah.
They're porcupine hunters. They actually specialize in porcupines.
Really?
They'll flip them over and go for their bellies. It's seeing some of the videos of them are crazy.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
They're humongous. And I was like,
What, porcupine?
no, fishers. They're,
Porcupine are big too.
I know. They're the same family as wolverines and otters.
Right.
And they're just slightly smaller than like a river otter.
yeah.
So those big river otters, they're just probably like a couple inches.
And they kind of move like an otter also. They slink
Yep. And
like-
they can climb up a tree like that.
like that.
Yeah.
I've watched a video of them chasing squirrels around a tree and getting it. They're amazing.
Yeah. They're crazy in like everything in the weasel
They
family.
actually, like,
When
live
did
in-
they reintroduce them in Pennsylvania?
It was in the
remember that.
90s. They reintroduced fishers in
2000s, but okay.
I have studies
Our
showing.
area. No, I know. No. I think it was more of our area of where I was thinking of because we haven't seen them
Yeah.
until I'd say like late 2000s.
I think they
when
did it
we
in
finally
certain
started
It
areas.
seeing.
was I was gonna say it was between 1994 and 1998
Okay.
that they reintroduced them into the entirety of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So they stopped the reintroductions.
Yeah, I
in
didn't mean
1990.
you were wrong.
No,
I was
no.
I was thinking of like maybe possibly our area.
Yeah.
When it comes to
I'm not going to argue with somebody who just went to school with us.
Wait,
With us, you
that has
know.
a
When it
research
comes to-
poster sitting right there in the hall of the fishers and everything.
when it comes to useless knowledge, Trevor will throw you out.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. Yeah, when it comes to useless knowledge, it's all here.
This kid,
But we love
this
you
kid-
so much.
yeah. Just background. This kid, from the time he was old enough to talk, was into animals, and he said for years and years and years, as a small child up into teenagers, he was going to be a zoologist. Well, then he found out the zoology didn't pay very well.
It's like $20,000 a year. I was like, oh. And I'd have to be like a doctor. I was like, so I'd go to school for 8 years to get paid chump change.
Yeah, yeah.
And hard to find jobs.
Yeah, hard to find jobs.
But anyway, he still made his way into the
animal field.
Into the animal field, yeah.
No, I think what's very interesting about what you went to school for and what you're going to school, even if there's continued education and all this with it, is it's how do I say this? It's indigenous to our area.
Yeah.
So our hunting world, it's super important. And you know, you see where I'm going with this. I'm having a hard time with words apparently right now.
I mean, when we were out there and he's pointing out all these things that
there's
are
knowledge that every hunter dreams they could have,
and I'm
without
sure,
having to go through.
And there's probably people listening to the podcast here that don't realize how important it is.
Yes, I agree.
I was naive to it, and only am just really getting introduced to it a lot here the last few years, and trying to be better about it. And I still suck. And he would just sit there and go, "Oh, that's this, that's that," and just be able to identify everything.
I'm really looking forward to when we go out and do the in the field identification with him, because boy, am I going to pick your brain about trees. It's something that I've been. There's a guy I work with, and he's like you with this. He knows every damn tree that there is. Oh, that's and I'm sitting there. I'm like, how? What? Why? Like, it goes so far over my head sometimes because I'm not seeing what he's seeing, and I feel so dumb.
He sees it so.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, oh, that's a maple over there.
Like you being able to pinpoint the identifiers of what and why is going to be. That's the helpful part.
Yeah. Oh, he was picking out the one place we were at. There was a white oak that was just a sapling, right? And he picked that out.
Yeah.
And then it was attached to what tree?
It was a maple, I think.
Yeah, it was attached to a maple.
It was attached to like a Norway maple, like a non-native maple. And I was like, oh, you could tell because it has these amount of points on its leaves and it sprouts this way. And they're just like...
What are the ones that... What is it? Tulip
poplar?
Yeah. We have one in our front yard at camp. They're freaking pretty when they bloom.
Oh, they're the way I was taught how to identify those is by their leaves and how their bark looks. It looks like someone put powdered sugar up the bark.
Yeah.
So that's what I was taught. And then the leaves look like Cheshire cats.
They kind of have roundedness to them.
Yep. Yeah. It has like the boom.
Yeah,
It looks like a Cheshire cat.
So the one tree that I've been calling an oak forever, thought it was oak, ended up finding out it was it black plum?
It was a black gum.
Black gum. Yes, black gum is prevalent there in the mountains here, central Pennsylvania, which I didn't realize until I've climbed them numerous times.
Right.
You know, for hunting, and thought they were oaks and was wrong.
I'm pretty good with maples. You know,
Maple's
aside from that,
maple's pretty straightforward.
Maple, mulberry, because I have one in my yard, and my dog's rolling them. They look like Dalmatians right now and their poop is solid black. But it's different things like that. And I also have a hickory tree in my front yard, a massive one. So when it comes to, and arborvitae, because they line our parents' property, you know what I mean? Different things like that. But when we get into the woods is where I get real stupid real fast.
Now up in the mountains there, they have a lot of mountain laurel. What will they eat mountain laurel? Is that one of those secondaries?
That's actually, they don't really eat those, but they will go into them and bed in their areas.
It's covered,
those are big cover areas.
Which that's historically.
Yes, they've been in there a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We put drives on in laurel just because of that reason. Yeah. Which is miserable, by the way.
Yeah.
But
it's awful.
What was the type of stuff that you said that they like to bed in if they were looking for a soft bed? What are they looking at?
My mind's blanking on what I said. I'm not gonna lie. I can't. I'm trying to think of what they were bedding in.
Trevor, we're putting you on the spot. Damn it!
You need to be an expert in everything right now.
My mind's blanking. The reason I was so good with the trees and everything is how our class was done. We'd be taken out into the woods, and they'll teach us out in the woods, like, oh, this is this, what to look for. But we'd be given a minute to identify them. They'd be like, what's that tree, that tree, that tree, and that tree? You guys have 4 minutes. And I'd have to write down the full scientific name, family name, everything.
Wow.
And then hand it to them. And if it was...
It's a great way to learn.
Yeah.
If it was wrong by even a little...
Wait a minute. So your teachers put you on the spot and you're shitting out answers.
Yep.
We put you on the spot and you're da. Come on, Junior.
I'm not in the mindset right now. I've had some time off. Okay,
But all this,
no, this is great.
all this stuff is extremely valuable for hunters, because now we talk a little bit more in detail about this.
Right.
In the Allegheny National Forest, there's been some people that have found that red oaks are actually producing acorns already early,
Okay.
which they are normally a November type crop.
Right.
Late October, early November type crop, and they're seeing that. So I'm wondering if you just get like a red oak crop, or an early red oak crop, if that's something to look for. If we're not getting white oaks, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
But you said something about what is that timing for the oaks?
Oaks, it's like the white oaks are going to be that early September, like that early fall hitting.
Their drop?
Their drop.
Okay.
They're going to be dropping their acorns leading into that November drop for the red oaks lineages. And when it comes to how that works out, and with you saying that the red oaks are dropping early, that could be, there's many different factors that causes them to produce early. And that could be stressors, outside stressors, polluting, affecting the trees.
All the weird weather we've had.
All the weird weather could be it. The heat index. And
I was going to say,
cold.
like extended extreme heat.
Yeah.
Does that prolong the process? They would drop later, or would that make them drop earlier because of lack of water keeping strength to hold on?
It could cause them to drop later, due to them having to build the resources up to produce that drop.
Okay. Yeah.
Because there's different varieties of trees, and some of the stuff we learned was shade tolerance, which is just basically saying, can the tree survive in the shade as well as other trees? And
like as far as being suffocated out by other trees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's why stuff like border privet is like really bad for like the small plants, because it's covering those plants and killing them off, and that's why it's like, keep border privet out. They're really bad.
Okay.
And
that's kind of why it's great for the clear cut.
I could talk about this all day.
The clear cuts,
seriously, this is
clear cuts that are big for hunting. That they say that third year when they really get grown up. People think that as soon as there's a clear cut, you run out and hunt it, but that's not the case.
No, you want to give it a couple years. Yeah,
2 or 3 years to where it's really.
This is what year 3 for up behind camp.
Yeah. So, but as far as acorn drops, and you said something before about they can drop every year or not based on what?
Based off of, like I said, the resources, and sometimes it's based off of how they're grown in their areas. There's so many different environmental stressors and different things that could affect the trees and how they drop their acorns. And some of the stuff that'll cause things to not fruit is what I'm saying, like that shade. If they're being blocked out from the sun and everything, they're not getting that pollination.
Okay, so if in a perfect world, perfect weather, like in and out of season transition, perfect amount of rain, perfect amount of sun, will acorns drop out or produce every single year in a perfect situation?
Yes.
Or is it like an off year situation?
It
should.
It
okay.
should. There's, like I said, there's other things that could also be affecting it, because there's different parasitic stuff, blights and all that.
Like right now, it's late June, getting ready to head into July, and we've been really bad in the rain situation. Is this going to hurt for the acorn situation possibly?
It could, if we still continue.
Because you're at that phase of growing acorns right now.
If all this heat.
Yeah, with all the heat and all the dryness, it could affect that acorn drop.
We've talked before, lack of acorns can be good for hunting because they're moving more. Mm-hmm. Where when you have massive acorn drops, they're staying central to a certain area and they're not moving much. They don't need to. They don't need to go very far.
It's bad to have a good acorn crop. It's
good, but it's good for the deer, bad for us as hunters. Yes.
As a hunter, a sporadic drop where you find isolated pockets of oaks that are dropping, that's a gold mine.
Yes.
That's a gold mine.
And you're going to find more deer traveling.
Take your binoculars out when you're scouting and look up in the trees and see, when you find the white oaks and stuff, and look up in the trees and see if you can see them forming acorns on the trees, because it's a great way to see, hey, this spot, they got them. When they drop, this is going to be a gold mine in here for deer.
And not even just seeing for acorns, like especially in this time of year, looking up and seeing if it even has flowers, because that could cause them to not, drop their acorns or anything. If they're not flowering, if they're not having the resources to make those stuff, to make acorns, make their flowers to pollinate and make those acorns, they're not going to drop anything for that year.
Yeah,
and that's going to cause them.
That's good to know.
I would like to have you back on, and not just talk about plants, but I would like to talk about gestation period for does and what kind of dictates 1 to 2 fawn differential, stuff like that. But I mean, that's something we could definitely get into in more depth later. But I've always been interested in the 1 to 2 fawn. Why not 3? You know what I mean?
It's normally just about space and like how their uterus is in their body and stuff.
Save it for another episode.
Yeah.
Shut up. You want to come back on, right? I'm just teasing.
Took 21 episodes for me.
But you've been away at college, buddy.
Yeah. So
I've been home at times.
I'm looking forward to going out and making this video now to where we can really show all this stuff and he can detail this stuff on the ground. And of course, it's going to be the mountains here in Pennsylvania.
It's going to be called episode whatever plant school. Yeah, dude, I'm really looking forward to it because again, I truly feel like that has been my weakness. My strong suits are physical sign, not why would the sign be here.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I mean, I do know a little bit. Obviously, I've killed quite a few deer, but you know what I'm going at.
Yeah, and the benefits to this, as a hunter, and is continually looking at. We like trail cameras and all that, and that's great.
Gives you a lot of information.
But there's a lot of states that have been banning cell cameras and trail cameras. Period. So there could be a time here.
Yeah.
I don't know what state you're in or if it's already been banned or whatever.
Where you have to rely on this kind of knowledge.
Your field craft and ability to do on-the-ground scouting is going to be critical to your success. Yeah. And understanding those signs of, I talked about the fact that I had those deer that I've been tracking. I call big, little, small, medium, and large, and I'm not seeing large. Well, the one factor is as a deer really matures, they do also get very independent and not necessarily hang out, even when they
don't hang out in the bachelor groups.
They just are off by themselves, and they really minimize their movement. They don't move as much as they get older because they are getting older, but they are smarter, and
years of knowledge.
Yeah. In fact, I believe that last year when I was seeing these same deer on my cameras, that the big one didn't come along hanging out with the other ones until July. It might have been July. So we'll see what happens with that. But pretty good podcast.
Yeah, I have nothing else.
Yeah.
Trevor, it was awesome having you on, brother.
Yeah.
Love you, buddy.
So if you like the pod, please subscribe, follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your channel is. Watch us on YouTube. Really appreciate it. But until next time, we will see you.
Thanks.
Peace.